So right now we're just outside of the Legislative Council building where protesters have actually occupied an area to try and break in to the Legislative Council building. This would be like Fifth Avenue in New York City, a city of 7 million people that has been undergoing massive protests.
Here we are, these protests that were peaceful all day long have really taken a turn into something that I don't think really anyone was expecting. It all starts with this extradition bill that was first introduced by the Hong Kong government. Basically, what this extradition bill calls for would be to set up an agreement between Hong Kong and China that would allow China to extradite certain criminal suspects from Hong Kong to the mainland. The reason why people are so upset is because these people would be extradited to a country, China, that has a notoriously opaque legal system. Yes, we're going to stop right now.
Very dangerous.
Absolutely. In the last 4 years that I've lived in mainland China, I've seen a litany of people get arrested for what can only be described as political reasons. So when I say that, think people like human rights activists, kind of people that speak out against the Communist Party. If this bill passes, it basically puts everyone in Hong Kong at the mercy of Beijing.
中方维护国家主权、安全和发展利益的决心坚定不移，维护香港繁荣稳定的决心坚定不移，坚决反对外部势力干预的态度也坚定不移。
This was an entire city that really was shut down by one march, because if 2 million people come out, well, there's only 7 million people or so in all of Hong Kong. And it was an absolutely inspiring scene in terms of the peaceful nature of these protests. There was one day, June 12th, when things got violent. And the Saturday immediately thereafter,
I now announce that the government has decided to suspend the legislative amendment exercise.
At first glance, you might say, wow, that's a huge win for the protesters. And it certainly was a temporary win. But what they would say is it's temporary at best.
We have to fight for a long time. And this is only a checkpoint. And I think
it's only the first step.
Yes.
Because what Carrie Lam didn't do is repeal that bill entirely. But they're saying, you know what? That's not good enough. This bill needs to be completely repealed, and until it is, we are going to be back out in the streets trying to make our voices heard, trying to force Carrie Lam not only to repeal the bill, but also they want her to resign.
This is the third time in a month that organizers have called for mass protests, and you'd be forgiven if you thought, well, maybe that not as many people were going to come out the third time as they did the first two. So would the numbers turn out this time? Well, I mean, see for yourself.
You know, the bigger point here is that China's increasing reach into Hong Kong and the stripping away of certain freedoms that has really scared a lot of people in Hong Kong about what the future might look like. People that will tell you that what these protesters are doing is ultimately futile. These protesters are up against a massive country to its north, mainland China, that is not going to just sit back and let Hong Kong do what it will and act as some sort of democratic society. But, you know, you talk to these people on the streets and they say, it's our city. Like, these are the things that we're worried about. And while we still have the right to do so, we're going to protest. And we're gonna fight for our city in the only way we know how, in a way that we believe in.